As always, the Lakers right now is struggling to kind of catch foot and catch hold of the fire that they had to start the season and the fire that they had to win the in-season tournament. Many people will look at this team and say, well, this is not the same team that won the in-season tournament. But in my eyes, and I've said this before, even when they did win, that this team can only go as far as Anthony Davis can take them. But at the end of the day, there's one glaring issue that simply just has not been solved in the last like 2 or 3 years for the Lakers. And it has consistently been an issue. And it's honestly mind-boggling how they have not been able to get talent to come to the team that can do this one specific thing. And it's not defense, because they're pretty good defensively. They're not really, middle of the road. They have length and they're able to have a really good interior defense. The one thing that they struggle with consistently is that they can't shoot. They can't shoot threes. They are at the bottom of the league for threes. They are ranked 29th, right behind Detroit of all teams when it comes to shooting threes. And that's the company that you really don't want to have at all when you're supposed to be a championship contending team. But right now they're barely making the play-in, and you kind of question, why is that even the reality when you see the talent that they have on the team currently that should be able to lead the team to at least be ranked 4th or 5th seeding wise. And that is because LeBron James, even though he's probably like 50 years old, is not slowing down at all. He still has a lot of his perks of being a facilitator, being a strong finisher in the paint, and he's honestly been doing a really good job in becoming a really good three-point shooter, which has plagued him for majority of his career where he has not been a consistent three-point shooter. Right now he's actually pretty decent. And so you kind of question, okay, cool, you have LeBron James being who he's always kind of been, but then you have Anthony Davis, who is kind of in and out of lineups. You don't really know what type of Anthony Davis you're going to get, whether or not you're going to get the Anthony Davis that is supposed to be the person that's leading the team, that should be leading the team. It should not be placed on a person who has 21 years into the league. It should be Anthony Davis and how Anthony Davis needs to step up. And when he's healthy, Anthony Davis has been having great games and he has been stepping up. But there's something else wrong with the team, and that comes down to shooting. Anthony Davis is not the best shooter. Matter of fact, he was told by his coach, Darvin Ham, that, hey, I want you to shoot 4 threes a game. And he's not really averaging that, and he's not really doing a great job of even making them. And it seems like when you have a team that is so predicated to be in the mid-range, there's no reason for you not to have a really good three-point team. In the sense that if you're going to dominate in the mid-range or in the paint, you need spacing. I mean, it's just a pure math and numbers game. You need spacing on the court. If you don't have spacing on the court, it's going to be very difficult for Anthony Davis to succeed. It's going to be very difficult for LeBron James to succeed. And they've been succeeding in spite of that. They've been succeeding in spite of the fact that they only make 12 to 10 threes a game. And that is not what you expect for a team that's supposed to be a top team in the West. And there's been a lot of talks about getting DeJounte Murray. In my opinion, I don't think he fixes that at all. I think there might be a solution where he might alleviate the pain a little bit, but the issue is that the team construction-wise is not good enough where it needs to be. One of the people that they should get, in my opinion, who's definitely able to fit in that roster and fit in that system is probably a person like PJ Tucker. PJ Tucker doesn't need that many touches in the game, but as soon as he shoots a three, he's pretty consistent and one of the best shooters in the league. And you don't sacrifice anything on defense because PJ Tucker's a pretty good defender when it comes to guards and swings. And so when you think about the Lakers and you see that the success that they've had in the in-season tournament, if you're watching the game, you notice that they really only won because of their defensive prowess. They are a pretty good defensive team, and they're a defensive team that kind of keeps them in the game for as long as they possibly can. But like I said, when they were going against the Indiana Pacers, you can only have your defense carry you so far. If you're not able to make threes, you have to hope that your defense is good enough to stop the other team from making threes. And that is something that in the West, you just can't really depend on. I mean, you have the Suns, who is still a struggling team in my opinion, but because Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant is on the same team, the talent alone is going to carry them into the playoffs. You have the Clippers, who's pretty much molding themselves into whatever team that they want to become. Even the Warriors, even though they're not that great of a team, they still have really good shooting. And so you have all these teams, and we're not even going to talk about OKC or currently one of the best teams in the league right now, which is the Minnesota Timberwolves, surprisingly. All these teams have one thing in common. They can at least shoot consistently. It might not be the 3-point chuckers that we've all came to see for a lot of the NBA teams, but they are consistently shooting and making threes. And if you're not going to be able to stop that on a nightly basis, which is very difficult to do, especially with spacing, you're going to lose a lot of games. And so is DeJounte Murray the answer to this problem that they've had for many years? No. The answer is you need to get a whole bunch of role players. You need to get a whole bunch of role players who might be disgruntled with their current team, right? Like PJ Tucker. And you need to continue to develop players who are supposed to be really good 3-point shooters, i.e. Taurean Prince, who may be able to hit a couple threes a game, but then he shoots and bricks everything else. And then you have to think about, well, why are we even benching D'Lo? Well, because D'Lo's not a good 3-point shooter as well. And so you just have too many variables on the team that is restricting you from being the best team that you're supposed to be. Because it's very similar when Russ was on the team. And now people are looking at Russ and saying, okay, maybe Russ wasn't the problem in the Lakers when he was there. But it was like, of course he wasn't. Because you're putting him in a system that just is simply too difficult for him to succeed. Anthony Davis is not shooting threes. He's bringing everybody to the paint. LeBron James historically has not been the greatest 3-point shooter. He's bringing everybody to the paint. Russell Westbrook is the same way. He's a great finisher in volume, and he's not that great of a 3-point shooter. So you only have 2 other players on your team that's supposed to spread out the court. It's not going to happen. It's not going to be a recipe for success. And the Lakers, even last year, in spite of all the issues that they have on their team, are succeeding because of really only 2 players, but really only one, in my opinion, and that is LeBron James. Whenever Anthony Davis shows up, it kind of reminds everybody that, hey, Anthony Davis is a really, really good player. But at the end of the day, it almost always comes back down to LeBron James. And it shouldn't, because it's a ridiculous precedent to set that LeBron James, a person who's in his 20th career season, is supposed to be the person that's leading the team. Usually around that time, you have all the young guys lead the team and you kind of coast. That's historically how it's always been done. That's historically how it's always been achieved when you're trying to get a championship in your, last couple of years in the league. But what he's doing, by all means, is impressive. One of the best seasons you can ever have for a person who's this far into his career, and probably going to see the next person to do that would be Kevin Durant. But at the end of the day, even Kevin Durant has Devin Booker and Bradley Beal. Who does LeBron James consistently have on a day-to-day basis? And so if the Lakers continue to make moves where they try to splash instead of just build a cohesive team, which they tried this summer. This summer was an actually really good attempt in getting a lot of good players. But the issue still stood that they can't shoot threes consistently, at least historically in their careers. They might be great defensively, but you need 3-point shooters. You need 3-and-D players. That's it. That's the end-all, be-all. If you don't have those players, you're not going to win championships. You can have a great defense, but at the end of the day, if the Lakers can't shoot their ways into the game, they're going to consistently lose, and they might not even make the play-in.